აქვს, რათა უკეთესად განვითარდეს და მნიშვნელოვანი მიღწევები ჰქონდეს განსაკუთრებით სიცოცხლის შემსწავლელი მეცნიერებების მიმართულებით. კიდევ ერთხელ მოგესალმებით, სიტყვას გადავცემ დავით ხარჩილავას და იმედი მაქვს, რომ მოგეწონებათ დღევანდელი პრეზენტაციები და ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანი ინფორმაციას წაიღებთ აქედან.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. So today we are going to have small presentations about quality assurance, quality automation, and all the little stuff connected to it. It's a pleasure for us to see you. So please never hesitate to ask any questions, comment at the end of each presentation. And actually, we do have presents for best 5 questions. Little presents, but still pretty awesome one. So please ask questions, be more active, and be interactive.
Yeah, thank you, David. So hello everyone. Thank you for coming here, and sorry for some delay. But this place is hard to find. I know that we should delay some. And today we will have 5 speakers. At the middle we will have little break. Yeah, we have food. Yeah. And at the end we will have also catering, and we can interact and speak, communicate, networking, etc. Don't be shy, and have fun. Yeah, let's start. Yeah.
So our first presenter, first speaker will be Anna Forestyanova. Please welcome.
Hello. So today will be a topic more for some experienced key engineers, maybe even developers. But I think that if you're a newbie, if you're a junior key engineer, that's also fine. You can just listen to me. It's a funny story. So a couple of questions about, a couple of things about me. So I came here from a rainy Amsterdam. It's quite hot right now there. And I work there as a software developer and test, so I will call it SDT. And I work in a service team. So service team means that I prepare some tools and frameworks for other developers and QA engineers. So I don't really test business logic. I try to help people test it instead of me. Also, I play a role of lead QA automation engineer in Kontori, and I rule Kontori QA Academy. And if you want to try yourself as a QA engineer and you have some scientific background, just contact me. And in DM maybe I will leave my contact, or also you can contact me directly after the presentation. I will just make a note that you're eager to join us. And let's start. So before I start, I want to make some gratitude here. Unfortunately, there are no people here who I want to mention, but there are 2 people, 2 managers who I'm really fond of. So first one is Fedor Kortikov. He's head of our QA competence in Kontori. He's an amazing guy. So if you think about joining Kontori, I will just, I want to invite you, because he is a real guy who really cares about people. So it's not only about management, ruling people, all the stuff. He really cares. The second one is also manager, and he was my first manager as Electrapco. Now he works in Canada, but maybe you read his articles about testing. He's also really experienced specialist. Also, and I want to welcome Anton Semenchenko, and he was my first teacher. He doesn't know that, but he was my first teacher in automation, in UI automation. So it's really amazing that today we are here together. When I prepared this presentation, I didn't know that, so it's not like that I just want to praise him. He's a really amazing guy, and I'm really grateful for all that you do. And the 4th guy, he's also automation engineer, it's Artem Prestoronin. He also works in Kontori, and he taught me everything about Java, API testing. And so if you work in Kontori, you can contact him. If you don't work in Kontori, just join us, and you will work with amazing people. And the last but not least, is Yulia Bagri. He is also living in Canada. I don't know how it works, but a lot of people go to Canada right now. and she was the first QA manager. I think that it's really amazing to keep in touch with some people who taught you something, yeah, who inspired you. And the thing is that he's been like an example for me all these 5 years. And of course, many, many others. As I said, there are a lot of great people in Kontori, so I really want to invite you to join our meetups or even our company as some specialists. Even if you don't know what to do, just take a look on our career portal. I think that you will find something for you. And our presentation plan is, so we are going to go through some theoretical basis. Second thing, I'm going to tell you how I failed from the beginning. I think that we all love the stories about people who fail. Yeah, so I will not play the role that, oh, see, yeah, I'm cool, and yeah, I'm going to tell you how cool I am. No, I'm not. And next thing, I'm going to tell you about my attempts to improve the situation. So you see that there are attempts, so no success at all. And lessons that I've learned. And of course, yeah, I will leave you some space for applause if you want to. So, I'm going to tell you more about Miro. So, does anybody use Miro here? Yeah, so you love Miro? Yeah, so do I. Yeah, so that's great. Miro is a real-time board. So we use it to collaborate with our people, with our colleagues. Yeah, we all work remotely, and honestly saying, I started to use it before I joined Miro and even before the pandemic. So after pandemic, yeah, it became extremely popular because it allows people to work remotely, to collaborate, but the thing is that it's pretty amazing. And when I joined Miro, I had a task to refactor API tests to increase the coverage and to let developers write tests themselves, because we don't have a lot of key engineers and they're pretty busy. And they have already had one successful case with UI tests. They implemented a new tool and they migrated all tests from JavaScript, from Java to TypeScript, and it was really nice, fast. Everything was really happy. Everyone was super happy. Yeah, and I needed to create my own tool. Yeah, create my own tool, implement some standards, present it to other people, and everyone will be happy, so they hope so. But the thing is that I joined Miro in October, and in my first month, I discovered that there are 600 API tests written in Java in different places, and they all written in different code style. The second thing, that there is no code owners for a lot of test cases, at least 30%, and you have no person to ask. And the thing is that, okay, I should just dive deeply into detail, yeah, and I should investigate the business logic, but I don't have time, because I'm not a key engineer. Yeah, I'm a service engineer, and they had a lot of requests. I need to switch on some pipelines, I need to enhance something, yeah, and the thing is that I have no time to dive into business logic, and I have nobody to ask. And one more thing, I need to invite to write test cases more than 300 developers. They don't do that, they don't know how to do that, and they don't really want to do that because they have a lot of other tasks. And people write tests unsystematically. So there are a lot of component tests with end-to-end tests, yeah, and they're in the same place, people don't really differentiate them. And also they use different frameworks. So for example, when it comes to Java, it was REST assured and retrofit and OpenHTTP, raw OpenHTTP, yeah, and some other frameworks. And also some of them decided to write in Kotlin because they write Kotlin. Some of them decided to use Scala, for example, without any reason because they liked Scala. So it was such a mess. And I try to treat myself as a really smart professional. So what I need to do, I need to come back to the theory. And the thing is that I read a couple of books. So for example, I started with some design patterns. Yeah, I think it's really important to revise your knowledge about design patterns, about some logic that you need to implement, some layers. Yeah, and I needed to revise it again because yeah, it was so long time ago. And Also, I'm a teacher, I'm a tutor, and I conduct some webinars about STQB. I help people to prepare for STQB certification. So I just decided to go to the syllabus, and find out what they say. And the thing is that on foundation level, there is a small chapter in the end, the 6th chapter, about new tooling, how to introduce new tool, new automation tool to your company. And the thing is that I tend to work more in outsourcing companies, and my projects are not so large. Yeah, they may be, I don't know, kind of 50 people, maybe 100 people, but that's it. More than 2,000 people right now work on Miro, and more than 700 engineers. So the thing is that my experience was really obsolete. So what they say in syllabus. So first of all, you need to gather requirements. So what they do, why they need the framework, if they need the framework, you need to investigate, etc., etc. Next thing, you need to do a research. So you need to find the proper tool or a proper combination of some tools. Third thing, you need to choose one tool and conduct a pilot project. So you need to just choose a guinea pig, for example, or one team, and just ask them to join you, in this investigation. And then you need to gather the feedback from them and decide. So what you need to decide? You need to repeat this cycle again, or you can introduce this tool to your company. And one more thing. So it's really generic. So it's all about tooling, but I wanted some concrete references, and I came to the test automation engineer syllabus. There is chapter 2, so tool evaluation and selection. And here are more recommendations how to choose the tool. And I found it really, really helpful for me. So you just need to access organizational maturity. And here I would say that I failed, because I didn't do that, because I couldn't admit that my organization is not mature enough to use a new tool from the beginning. Second thing, you need to assess appropriate objectives. So who is going to support, what we are going to support, and how much it will take to support this tool. Also, we need to collect some information, the same step. We need to analyze the tool against our acceptance criteria, estimate, and make a recommendation. And also, last but not least, we need to identify capabilities. So, for example, I tried to implement the framework using tools that my developers use. Just because it will be easier to use Java, for example. Because I can write a tool in Python, but they don't know Python, so they won't use it. So, what I decided to do. So first of all, I collected all the data I could find. So I asked my manager, I asked some teammates, where are some information that I can analyze. For example, I analyzed all pieces of code. It was 5 different repositories. Also, I analyzed all documentation, specifications, so there were some plans, and written complaints. And the thing is that here you can see that everything was written. So if, for example, the plans were not written, I won't be aware of them. So I decided to gather the feedback. So I asked in the QA chat, we have kind of 70 engineers right now there, so I investigated the feedback. It was really helpful. Also asked my SDT team, it's kind of 10 people, and I asked some QA personally, because nobody reads the chat. Nobody. And sometimes you just need to come to the people and say, stop, here, I'm going to ask you some questions. You need to just start asking and they will answer. And then I invited people to collaborate. So first of all, I asked people to add me to all PRs that are connected to API tests, because I couldn't just say, guys, stop writing API tests. I need to investigate all the things. Yeah, I need to write my framework and then we will proceed. So it's not the case. So I just started to review. It was really helpful. Also, I set up some meetings and I invited people in the chat. So guys, if you want to collaborate, I'm going to take up this initiative. If you want to, you can join. You can guess, yeah, that's not nobody, but a few people only joined because they don't read chats, yeah, remember? And I asked some old employees, so they existed, yeah, they work in the company, but they have been working there for a long time, like 5 years, 6 years, and it was really helpful because they know the pains. Yeah, they really fed up with all this old stuff, yeah, they just see this legacy, they want to make it work, but yes, they feel this pain and they try to improve it, but nobody cares, yeah, and you know, and it was also really helpful. So I just wanted to go by theory, yeah, I chose the tooling. So for example, it was my tooling. I don't really want to go deeply to the details because my presentation is more about management, some things, yeah, some management tools, some management feedback that I got. But here, yeah, it was the stack that my developers used. So it was Java, Kotlin, TestNG. Yeah, we used Allure to Stops as our TMS system, and we used Jenkins pipelines. So it was the same as backend code. And I used my favorite tool because there were no preferences. Also, I migrated some test cases. So I just picked up some easy test cases that were easy to read, were easy to understand, and yeah, I decided to start with them. I asked the feedback from my manager and from my teammates. These tests had code owners, so I was really lucky. Then I migrated more tests, wrote some documentation. Actually, I tried to use Confluence, but nobody reads Confluence, yeah, okay. So I tried to make my documentation more interactive. Yeah, so you know, there are some popular tools that you can use. For example, I use the Docusaurus. That's really nice. I think that you can see it almost everywhere. For example, Swagger uses Docusaurus, and that's really nice. You can just have a single-page application with a lot of chapters there. You can also have an interactive content, so everything. And also I presented the approach. So I presented the approach at QA meeting, and also I conducted some individual chat sessions with some interested developers and QAs. And the thing is that after 3 or 4 months, I felt completely exhausted because nobody wrote API test cases, and who wrote them in an old manner. So, what could be done better, as I see right now, with choosing the tooling? You need to go to managers. So the thing is that we think that we need to gather the feedback from managers. They know the team, they know the pain, but the thing is that they also know everything about future plans. Engineers, they don't care, yeah, okay, so they just proceed, yeah, from task to task, yeah, and sometimes they don't even know what is going to be implemented in the future. For example, I found out after half a year that we are going to split our monoliths to microservices. And the thing is that we are going to support a lot of languages, yeah, not only JVM languages, but also TypeScript, also Go, yeah, and they needed to do something with that. And also, we had a lot of in-house solutions, let's call them this way. So, no, some internal tools that guys wrote before I joined the company. So you need to be ready to proceed with these tools. You have to work with them, to build up some integrations. So you need to be ready, yeah, to reinvent the wheel sometime. Also, when I decided to migrate some test cases after gathering the feedback, it was too early. Because first thing, you need to collaborate with something. You just need to find some initiative people, yeah, who want to change something. Sometimes it can be a tight manager, but that's all right, yeah, because this manager has authority. He can just allocate some resources, yeah, to help you. And second thing, one team is not sufficient. Yeah, you need more. So two teams, I think, will be enough. Yeah, because they can collaborate not only with you, but with members of each other, and it's also really nice. And when I asked the feedback, I had no direct people to ask because nobody knew about my tool. Yeah, I presented it too late. And the thing is that when I asked, I started to ask my manager, yeah, because it's the guy who hired me. But the thing is that they don't really care about technical details. I would say that my manager really cares, yeah, and he used to be a real architect and engineer. But the thing is that it was a while ago. Yeah, so for now he doesn't really care. And also, when I started to migrate more test cases, I was really tired because I didn't know business logic. I had really strict deadlines, and I didn't really have time to dive deeply into this business logic yet, just find out what was going on in these test cases. So you need to force managers to allocate time. Of course, you can say that, yeah, your manager should do that. Yeah, they should give you people, they should just ask other managers. You cannot know that. But the thing is that I couldn't really, yeah, and I know it only now, yeah, but the thing is that you should understand and you should estimate your powers, yeah, your energy properly. And the thing is that I overestimated myself. And when you write some documentation, you need to do it before you start. Even if you only have the ideas. Because the first thing that you need to present is your roadmap. When you present your roadmap, you can invite more people. They can be interested in that. Yeah, they see your initiatives. When I just raised my initiatives in chats, it didn't work. When I started to talk about something in meetings, I also failed because there was a strict topic, yeah, for this meeting, and there was no space for my initiatives in the future. And also, if you have something to show, please show. But do it before you invite others to join you, yeah, to write, for example, API test cases, as in my case. And if you're not sure that they're going to follow you, for example, I'm a girl, yeah, and there are some sexistic principles in the company. You need to earn an authority, but it takes a lot, especially when you don't work to them directly, yes, or not in a team, yeah, you just work in a parallel, sometimes you interact with each other, but not so often. You need to let them be. Yes, so I think that great tooling was not the right thing, just because you need to introduce some metrics. They are smart people, they will go by with their own approach. Of course, you can guide them, but you cannot demand that, guys, yeah, you need to do this and this and this and that. So you can just say to them, okay, guys, in 6 months, we are going to block all PRs without appropriate test coverage. That's it. Yeah, and they will do something, they will figure out, even if they don't have time. And more thing, I will also tell you about it a bit later, you need to get to know more people. It doesn't really matter who. So, for example, I got to know some people from SRE team, yeah, from system team. System team is our team which doesn't write any test cases, so they just some semi-infrastructure team. Also, I got to know some recruiters, for example, yes, some QA engineers, front-end QA engineers, they don't really care about API. But the thing is that you can gather some more feedback, and sometimes it's a really internal one. Yes, so you cannot just imagine it, you just need to know. Also, you need to collect expectations from top management. It sounds really crazy, but the thing is that when I did it, and I did it when I felt so exhausted, so I decided just to leave the company because I couldn't proceed anymore. And the thing is that the top manager said to me, Anna, we have these plans, and you need to work on it. don't listen to your direct manager, liner manager. Just do what we want right now, and we will show it in the future. And I think that it helped because I saw the whole picture finally. So I think that it might be a good idea. Sometimes it's really difficult to reach them, but you can try. And also, it's also about my managers. Don't listen to the people if you are not sure about their expertise. The thing is that I thought that they are all so smart, also clever, and also experienced. And that can be true. But the thing is that they all experts in their own area. So, for example, they are not experts in API as means. That's why they hired me. But I didn't think about that. And when my managers or other managers just told me that you need to do that or this, I listened to them. But the thing is that it was not the right way. And you need to proceed, you need to, I don't know, set up a meeting with a discussion, or you can just ignore it. It can be also a way. And the last thing, and I know that people from Russia, for example, they are not good at it at all, but for example, people from Georgia are quite better. You need to promote your work. You need to make it visible. So, for example, I had really large features to implement, and it took me a lot of time, kind of month, for example, to implement a new feature. I decided to break it to the small pieces and demo each part. And the thing is that it worked, because finally I got some praises. I got some feedback, and you can make your own work, like more in a Agile way. And then, so I realized it, that's all right. I decided to change some features, because of course I had requests, and my managers, who sometimes didn't really figure out how it should work, but they told me how it might be, so I decided not to listen to them. And for example, what I have done. So there are some standard things, but we haven't done them before, so that's why I want to mention it here. So, for example, retrofit requires modules and endpoints, so there is a strict mapping for that. And the thing is that we used to have just a big package of endpoints and of models. So I decided to generate them. The thing is that there were a lot of cons, because it increased the time of the build. But I decided to do it just because it took more time to update them manually again and again, just them to generate them. Second thing, you have to use them in tests. So the thing that I did, because that's, I generated all models and just pushed them to our Artifactory tool, some Artifactory storage, and we just versioned the models. But the thing is, when I found out that we are going to implement even more microservices in different languages, I decided to just use Swagger. So we push Swagger to Artifactory, and then everyone can just pull it and generate their own models. Of course, I provided a lot of docs, in their own language. So we don't need to stick to the language anymore. The third thing, and I think it's kind of obvious, but a lot of people don't do that, I try to use only standard plugins. And I can say that 99% of all situations that I had, these plugins or these tools exist. You don't need to write your in-house solution. And the thing is that I believe that I will leave all the companies where I work one day, and people need to maintain. Otherwise, they will just throw it out. So you just need to increase the supportability. And of course, you need to promote your work, again. And we set up an initiative, we call it Tech Talks. And each 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, we have 2 topics to discuss. Now we have several topics from backend, from team, from testing, so that's really amazing. And the thing is that several people just find out that you exist. you do something, yeah, you work here, and maybe they can also share their experience, even if they are not connected to your directly. And also you need to set up some sessions for development teams. So we wanted to make some generic webinars, yeah, for basic level, for advanced level, but it doesn't work. People really like some adjusted approach, yeah, individual approach only for them. So I allocated some time. Yeah, I told my manager that we want to promote API testing. Let's just do team by team. And actually, we do that. And also, you need to think bigger, and you need to offer a hand of help to some cases that's not yours. Yeah, they're not part of your responsibilities. But the thing is that if you have some experience, you can gain some support in the future. Also, just go to some, I don't know, flu chats, yeah, or something like that, and just get to know more people. Don't care about their profession. Care about people themselves. Also, it's a good advice, actually, it helped me a lot. Keep in touch with your management every day. So I used to have one-to-ones once a week. For now, I have one-to-ones one time in 2 weeks. But the thing is that every day, my manager came to me and to my team, yeah, so I expanded it a bit, yeah, to discuss the news. Because otherwise, you can just lose them. And then they will come to you with some requests and you don't know where are they. Yeah, so they just appear out of nowhere. So make it a rule, yeah, for all the managers to discuss all the news with you. If you're fed up with your feature, so I cannot say just get distracted, it doesn't work like that, but you can just separate it to several tasks, and then you need to close it. Yeah, so it's not like eat an elephant. Yeah, it's not like that. The thing is, yeah, you need to visualize your progress, not only for you, but for your managers as well. And if you have done only 1/2 of the task, 30% of the task, 25%, you can write the docs. Yeah, you're ready for it, and you should make a demo. Again, yeah, you should make your progress visible. And the nice thing that I really enjoy, peer coding. The thing is that not a lot of people like that. I don't know why, but it's a good way to find out some new features, for example, of the product that you test, and it's fun, and you can also get acquainted with someone. And I mentioned it before, nobody reads the chat. Yeah, so you need to find out right people and ask them directly. So I think that's it from my side. Thanks for your attention. You can find thank you. Yeah, you can find a QR code here. So it's a QR code for my contact on Telegram. So please feel free to contact me in any case. I don't know if you want some consultations, if you just wonder about something about API testing, backend testing. So anything that you want to, yeah, and I hope to hear soon from you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Now, I would like to ask audience to ask some questions. Please don't hesitate.
Hey.
Okay, you said something controversial things, like if you are not okay with your direct manager's answer, that you should go higher to maybe a general manager, but is it okay? Maybe it can, well, maybe there are consequences of this attitude to your manager. That's my first question. And
Okay.
Can I ask
Yeah.
the second one? You said something about your roadmap, which, well, how did you do it? Maybe you just visualized it with some software, or maybe it's maybe you just draw it on a map, on a paper.
Okay, so yeah, let me answer the first question first. So of course it depends on the company policy. Yeah, so sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. The thing is that I'm here, yeah, and I'm in the company not to blame anyone. So it's not about, oh, my managers doesn't, I don't know, my manager doesn't respond to me, yeah, I will ask further. No, it's more like, you can try, of course, you can try with your manager, but I think that your manager doesn't sometimes even expect that they are not aware of something. Yes, so here you can make it secretive. Yeah, if it's a big issue, yeah, for your managers, first of all. But second thing, I prefer to work in companies with a flat structure or semi-flat structure, so it's not a problem. And here you can emphasize that if something, yeah, just appears, yeah, some issues appear, that okay, I just wanted to figure out the things that's important for my make you, yeah, get me. Yeah, so it's not an escalation. You just want to increase your understandability, yes, so your knowledge. And the second question, so as I said, I tried Confluence, yeah, and we don't draw anything by hand because we use Miro for everything. I think it's quite common for a lot of companies to use their own tool that they develop. And I just draw kind of table, yeah, with some deadlines, yeah, with the topics and with the responsibilities. Because sometimes there was only one person who was responsible, me, yeah, but sometimes I needed to interact with some teams, for example. I was kind of dependent, yeah, on them. And in this case, it was also really nice to highlight because managers, for example, could go, yeah, to this table in my docs and see that, oh, here I need to allocate sources to let this feature be. Have I answered the question? Yeah? Okay. Any more questions? Great.
Many thanks for your presentation. It's very interesting experience. In a section, what could be done better, you mentioned metrics. Did you manage to introduce metrics to the team? And if yes, what were they?
Okay, it's an interesting question. So the thing is that it's an ongoing process. Yeah, there is no stage when you can just introduce the metrics and that's it. And I think that it can be a topic for another lecture, but yeah, wrap it up. So the thing is that for now, we have 3 different metrics. So first metric is quite simple. You need to have at least one web end-to-end test for each endpoint. So that's easy. Yeah, it's easy to measure. Yeah, you don't need to do a lot of stuff for it, so it's easy. Second thing, we demand to have more than 30, I think, yeah, for now it's 30 integration tests per model. So the thing is that it doesn't matter a lot, but the thing is that we at least encourage people to write these integration tests. And the third thing that we have, we measure, I want to say the decreasing number, but it's not really decreased. So the number of bugs in the production. Yeah, and the thing is that this is how I evaluate my work. If we have some, for example, API problems, and I don't solve it with my tool, so my work doesn't have this function, yeah, so it doesn't work properly. So, and also we are going to introduce more metrics. And I would say that you are going to have 3 stages of all the metrics that you have. So first is just an explanation, yes, so you just try to explain, for example, to your managers, to the other managers, that you need this metric, yeah, and why. Second thing, you are going to introduce this metric, and it should not be blocking metric. So it will just be somewhere. For example, right now we have some accessibility tests, and we just show them. Yes, so it doesn't really matter. But people who are responsible, they just keep an eye on it, and if there's accessibility decreases, they see it. And the third stage, you need to make it blocking. So people who didn't really keep an eye on your metrics will do that intentionally.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for questions. If you have some more questions, please ask them in the comments of the stream, or maybe. on the YouTube channel. So thank you.
Thank you
so
a
much.
lot.
So our next presenter will be Tinati. I'm gonna set up the presentation real quick.
So guys, if you have more questions to Anna, you could ask in the catering zone later when we'll have break, okay? And for audience who is online, you could ask questions in the YouTube chat. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tinati, and today I'm going to talk about what are the best practices to use domain knowledge in quality assurance. The reason why I can talk about this topic is that I am working at Quantori as a QA engineer for more than 1 year, and besides that, I have a background in life science because I'm a medical doctor and I'm almost Master of Science in Applied Genetics. I have been working, since I've joined Quantori, I became experienced doing scientific research, and my position in Quantori is QA in scientific research. I will talk about what is scientific research a little bit later. The first thing what I want to mention is the purpose of my today's speech is not to tell you how cool we are because we have domain knowledge in life sciences. No, I just want to encourage every QA who is working in this field to gain more knowledge in the domain that they are working in. And because Quantori is IT service provider for life science and healthcare industries, we have at Quantori some big knowledge base where our employees, different professionals, not only QA engineers but developers, DevOps, business analysts can go and find more information about interesting topics for them. We also conduct internal lectures, which are done by our life science consultants, and everyone can attend it who is interested and who wants to improve their knowledge in domain. And so Quantori is doing a lot to improve the domain knowledge of their employees. And right now I want to tell you about my very first task at Quantori. When I joined Quantori, SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus was very new, and Quantori was had an internal project. It was a scientific research, and the aim of the project was to publish some new data discovered by our scientists regarding coronavirus. During this research, our group of scientists analyzed almost 500,000 COVID genomes, and they analyzed them using different statistical and bioinformatical tools. And finally, the publication was published. And final goal was to find some new variants of the virus or some conserved regions of the virus or anything new regarding the coronavirus. And at some point of this research, scientists needed to calculate affinity values for the coronavirus, different proteins of coronavirus, before and after some mutation would occur. And this task was assigned to us, to the team of scientific researchers, And we had to start this task, we had to find some different applications which were calculating these affinity values. This wasn't a classical QA task that you will see as it wasn't a manual QA engineer task. It was more like scientific research, but we were also making quality assurance of the research. We had to find some reliable bioinformatic tools which could calculate these affinity values accurately. We had to compare different tools, what was the difference between these calculations. And it was a very important point because to acquire the correct results finally. We also had to find these 3D structures of the proteins, which you can see here. This was the tool that we used. This interface, we had to pre-process the protein. It was also a very important step in this calculation because pre-processing was affecting the final affinity value, the results. So the main point here is that this was a scientific research task, but we also had to, with this task, we were making quality assurance of the results of this research. So, according to good practice quality guidelines and regulations, quality assurance process of the medical and pharma product consists of some important steps, and two of them are validation and verification. Validation is more like the process of planning. During this process, we evaluate what should be tested, how it should be tested, what kind of test cases should be written, how many test cases should be written. And during this process, it's very important to make a research in domain. And during the verification process, we have to test the functionality which is already implemented according to the plan that we decided to work with during the validation process. And as an example of how QA engineer with a domain knowledge can be very useful for during both these steps is one project on which I worked on. It was an oligo designer tool. Oligo is, just to explain very simply, it's a little part of the DNA sequence which is used in different genetic methods. For example, in PCR, and PCR itself is a genetic method to amplify the specific part of the DNA sequence. If you have one sequence of the DNA, you will get at the end millions of copies of it. So I won't go any deeper in the technical terminology. So this was the user interface of the application. You had to provide the DNA sequence to the application. You had to provide some different parameters for the oligos. For example, melting temperature, GC content, and so on and so on. And after you click the design button, you were getting the design of the primers. So, customer wanted to add the new functionality to the application, to become able to design some specific kind of oligos. And we had to conduct a research regarding it. During the research process, we needed to find different algorithms which would be used to calculate these different parameters, different algorithms, how to design this kind of oligos. We also generated some very important and interesting questions that were addressed to the customer, and it was also a very important part of the validation process. And after this research was done, after the functionality was implemented, we had to do the verification of this new functionality. And the process of verification was very much easier for us because we already knew what should be tested, and yeah, it was easier for us to do the second part, the verification part. At Quantori, at Quantori, we have two main types of QA engineers. The first one are QAs who have their main knowledge in computer sciences fields. They have degree in computer sciences or information systems technology, and they want to improve and they try to improve their knowledge in life science fields. And also we have QA engineers who have their domain knowledge in life science fields and try to improve their knowledge in computer sciences fields. And both of these kind of QAs are very important for our company, and they are very useful for the project. But we have a very interesting compact team at Quantori, which is called QA Squad. It consists of Sandro, who is chemist, Christine, who is biologist, Daviti, who is our lead, and me and Daviti, we are medical doctors. And so we have background in life science, and we have also some experience in computer sciences like Python, Java, JavaScript, and etc. And we help different projects when they have some difficult tasks which cannot be accomplished easily by QAs who do not have background knowledge in life science. We go there and try to support that project and accomplish that task in really fast, and yeah, we try to be supportive for that project. As I already mentioned, having domain knowledge always means that productivity is increased, because this kind of QAs can sometimes give some suggestions and some improvements based on their personal experience, because they also understand the idea of the business really good, because they know what is application about. And as an example of it, I was working on a gene editor tool. It was a tool. You were providing a DNA sequence, and so this is a DNA sequence, and then after you clicked on create button, according to the complementarity principle of the DNA sequence, the double-stranded DNA sequence was generated. And the problem here was a little problem, that this second sequence, which is a complement sequence, in the documentation was mentioned as a reverse complement sequence or reverse complement strand. It was not a malfunction of the application, and it was not a big issue for the product, of course, but the thing is that it's better not to have this kind of mistakes, because team of our customers often consists of really experienced scientists who can easily notice this kind of mix of the terms, and so this was easily resolved. We just noticed that there was mix-up of the terminology, and instead of reverse complement strand, in documentation we were using, instead of complement strand, we were using reverse complement strand. And it was then remade by our business analyst, and so it had a happy end. Knowledge of technical terms is also one advantage that I can experience on myself. Whenever I join some new project, I had to read some big amount of documentation, understand the idea of the product, and it becomes for me much more easier to read this amount of documentation, requirements, and so on. Also, if you know the terminology well, you can easily describe some issues that arise during the product development. Describe, for example, write bug reports which are easily understandable, or just verbally communicate with team and explain them these issues. And here I brought some crazy terms from life science fields, and I want to ask you if you know any of them. For example, yeah, I didn't knew this one too, because I'm not a chemist. You know it? And esophageal duodenoscopy. It's a diagnostic procedure. Yeah. Yeah, you are right. And also, for example, hepatico-cholangiocholecysto, cholecystostomies. This is also a surgical procedure. It's the name of the surgery. So yeah, I don't know exactly what it means, but I can understand because I know what is hepatico-cholangiocholecyst. I know what they are separately, and then I can understand the whole context of the term. And last but not least, QA engineers with domain knowledge speak the same language as the customer does. QA engineers are actively engaged with meetings with the customers. They often conduct demo meetings with customers. So during these meetings, some questions can arise, and PMs or business analysts cannot always help you. So it's good when you are able to answer this question, and it really matters for representing the company in front of the client. That's all what I wanted to talk about today.
Thank you so much, Beatin. So now it's time of questions, please. Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. Could you please share your experience? What was the most challenging and hardest part of switching your career from medicine and life sciences to software QA? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's almost 1 year and a half since I'm working as QA engineer. And to be honest, at the beginning it was very hard. Despite I had some internal interviews, I read a lot of things about QAs. When I was first added to the project, I just couldn't understand how they communicated with each other. I didn't understand all the terms that developers and project manager was using. It was very hard at first to understand the flow and architecture of the project, but it was, I think, for the first project for a few months. Then I became to understand how everything was working, how the flow of the project was done. You know, it's different for every project, but whenever you understand it once, then it's easier to understand for the second and third times. So yeah, it was the hardest part to understand the communication between the team and how the process works, how the flow of the product development was working.
Thank you.
I think we are done. Yeah.
Is test automation applicable in your project?
Yes, it is, but I do not work on test automation, but I'm planning to improve my knowledge in it. But yes, almost every project that I've worked on, we have their test automation engineers, and yeah. So I'm working as a regular QA engineer, but the domain of the project that I'm working on is related to genetics, or mainly genetics and life science fields.
And how do you communicate with developers? Should they know the same, and have same business knowledge and from technical domain
sometimes they need to understand it, but I think how do I communicate? Just as regular QAs communicate with developers, they have, of course, some basic knowledge in biology because they work on this company at Quantori, and they have to know it. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for questions. Again, if you have some more questions, please ask them during coffee break or at the catering. So, Tinatin, before we finish, could you please select the best question?
I guess the question that the boy asked.
Okay. So, we would like to present two of our audience members with the presents for the best questions. And thank you so much for being part of. Okay, yeah. So next speaker will be Andrei Broko. Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Again, yeah, my name is Andrei, and I'm working as quality engineer, quality architect in the Quantori company, and quality engineer as well, of course. And yeah, let us talk about Agile. Who is working in Agile environment? Wow. Yeah, a lot of us. And the idea of my presentation was because I'm communicating with a lot of projects, and I mentioned that all of them say that, yeah, we work in Agile, but I realized that it could be not really true. And I would like just to go through the basics of Agile, and yeah, I'm not Agile coach, so I just wanted to go through basics, and also focused on the testing in Agile, right? Because we are testers. And my presentations will be based on these two books. It's first of all is Clean Agile by Robert Martin. So Robert Martin is the guy who was initially organized the conference on which was declared the Agile Manifesto. We will talk a bit later about this. And also, I would highly recommend the ICQB organization as an organization who is certifying us testers. And there is an Agile tester syllabus, yeah, it's really useful. So let's step back a little bit and let's discuss why Agile was invented. So let's say several decades ago, there was a really popular framework, but it's still used in some projects, which called by waterfall, and it looks like this. So from the system requirements to designing, coding, and testing, it takes months, quarters, or years for developing the software. And because of such long period of times, while each stage finished, it leads to the miscommunication between the teams, and it leads to projects could not be finished in the amount of time, in the, let's say, deadline, right? And it becomes a problem because customers and clients who ask to develop some software, they start don't believe the software development organizations that they can done project and they can do what they want. And then very smart people gathered in 2001 and decided that we can lose our job, right? Because customers don't believe us. We need a more efficient approach. How can we develop our software? And then they declared the Agile Manifesto, which could help to do the software in a more efficient way. So here is the 4 statements, and by the way, under these statements there is a 12 principles, but I'm not going to explain them. So here is the fundamentals, here is the basics. So individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So it means that communication is really important. And text in the bold is like the most, what we should focus, the most valuable part. Working software over comprehensive documentations. So it doesn't matter will you have the really great documentation if your software doesn't work, right? And customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So we really should understand what customer needs, right? Because we should not do something else. And responding to change over following a plan. So during the development, requirements could change, and it's okay for Agile methodology. So also it suggests us to use not such a long period of time in development, like months or more. It's just us to have short interactions, sprints, yeah? And in each sprint we will have all of the stage of development. Why it's beneficial? First of all, at the end of each sprint we will have the working software, something that could work, right? Next, when we go from sprint to sprint, we could measure how many tasks we could solve, let's say, in simple words. And finally, we could predict the realistic finish date, and we will not say our customers at the last day of the project that, okay, we will not finish. We could explain and say that our team velocity, let's say, this, and the realistic finish date could be, for example, prolonged. So also there is a tool which could help automate this calculation. So it's from the Azure DevOps, and it easily for manager. Also, Agile ideology suggests us to have cross-functional teams. That means that in one team, it will not so big pool of the people. It will be a small team, but this team will have all of the representatives from different professions, let's say testers, developers, business analysts, and of course product owner. We need to understand what we need to develop in that way. And the most important part of Agile is to adjust communication. So between us testers, between developers and business analysts, to build reliable software. And it is better to, now we work mostly remotely, in this time, pandemic period especially, but it is accessible, of course, but it is better to be in one room to have some unverbal stuff, right? Communication. And also it could be the unpredictable invention. So you could speak and suddenly realize something, for example, new way to test or something like that. But there is the well-known Iron Cross that said that, so it's in a project manager, it's used in a project manager that we have 4 directions. We could create fast our software, we could create good software, cheap, and it could be done. But if we would like to have 100% done one of the directions, the rest one will be not done. So it is. The idea is that Agile not like a silver bullet, yeah, but it is required for project manager to be talented to create a good enough software in an appropriate time. Then let's focus on testing. So the first thing that I wanted to explain it, this is manual testing, by the way, that it is really important to have automation testing, yeah, like this. Because each sprint, we have more and more function. For each function, after each sprint, we have more and more test cases. And when we will run these test cases manually, it will take more and more time to execute, right? And this could lead to increase our team, but the budget usually limited. The second thing that sprints takes usually 1 week or 2, and it's requires really fast feedback from the tests, right? And it is hard to give a really fast feedback with the manual testing, right? And one more thing that developers like finish their work before the deadline of the sprint, right? And it's also required to give a fast feedback. Also, it is really important to have acceptance testings, acceptance tests. So, and in the Clean Agile books, Robert Martin suggests that the clients should create acceptance tests, not only testers. That this test should be like collaborative work between all of the representatives and BAs, testers, developers. That all of us will be on the same page. Also, if we will not done this test in the middle of the sprint, it means that no reason to even think about the task will be, like user story will be finished, because we will not have enough time to test it carefully, right? And yeah, so, and also you could say that, okay, customers should write acceptance tests, but customers not technical, right? They could not understand how to write the automation test, right? It's required knowledge of the programming language. Okay, in this case, was invented specification by example principle, when we could write the scenario in the human readable way. Also, for me, yeah, it's just simple text, and in, let's say, in the modern world, we have such a cool thing like Confluence or Wiki page, which we can gather all requirements in a really cool tables. We can have diagrams there or links to the task, and you could say that it is better for BA or customers to see this beautiful page rather than some text in the, let's say, repository. Okay, in this case, we in Quantori decided to create one really useful tool that could take tests which located in the repository, like text, in the text, and then synchronize or move it to the test management system. And in test management system, we could organize our usual test process like test runs, assign tests to some persons, and etc. So this tool, by the way, is open source and could be used in any language. It's language agnostic. So yeah. Next one, this is our main pain that developers could might finish their work before the demo, and on us there is a really big pressure from the managers. They ask when we can done and when it will be ready, and we have really a small amount of time to finish. So I have a solution from the book, from the Robert Martin books, So it's not my idea, because you could say that you're a tester, you don't want to do your work. But they suggest that we can ask developers to execute tests. Okay, testers, BAs, and clients could write the test case, but developers should execute this test, yeah, and like analyze result. In this case, developers will think in advance that they not only have to finish their work, but they also should execute the test. And one more important thing in the Agile, that we should have the CI/CD system, which could help with really fast releases and fast delivery to the client, and have feedback from the test automation that will be run right after the merge and deploy on the some stage. So, and let's quickly go through the Agile testing tools, which implement actually Agile ideology. It's so test-driven development, when the test right ahead of the code. Acceptance test-driven development, I mentioned right about the acceptance testing. Behavior-driven development, which used like natural language for explaining the test. Experience-based testing, I like this the most, because yeah, exploratory testing is like not only go through the steps, but you could imagine some interesting situation. And of course, test automation and this SRE, it is a site reliability engineering. It like shift right pattern or principle, when we not only finish our work when the user story tested, but we could go to monitoring, yes, monitoring system, and see how the system works in production, right? Via logs or metrics. Also, there is some useful tools for the developers. Yeah, of course, code review, but we could use code review as well. Static code analysis, simple design. Yeah, simple design is really important even in test automation. I think Anton will speak about this later. And yeah, pair programming and refactoring is really important thing. And one more interesting slide. There is a testing manifesto. So I really like these statements, and let's just go through the statements quickly. Testing throughout over testing at the end, right? So we should continuously testing, preventing bugs over finding bugs. Yeah, we could see in advance, and we could start testing even requirements or earlier. Testing, understanding or checking functionality. Yeah, we should be smart, not only go through the test cases. Building the best system or breaking the system. Yeah, let's see how to build our system reliable, not to break it. And team responsibility for quality or test responsibility. Yeah, let's see the process like wide, high level, not only our job. And that's it. At the end, in conclusion, I would say that Agile is a feedback-driven development which helps to adjust communication, and for me, actually, it's the best way how to build reliable software in an efficient way. Thank you so much. Questions, please?
Thank you so much, Andrei. Yeah, reminding you about good questions, that it will grant you with the prize.
Okay, who have questions?
Thank you very much. In first time, I would say that I don't speak so good English because
No problem.
I am German speaker, Georgian and Russian, but
Let's try.
yes, I will try. Okay, in your PowerPoint presentation, there stands project manager, yes, and some tools, and there was good quality, yes, and
Yeah.
like one. And what do you mean under good quality? What is, in your eyes, good quality of project, for example?
Okay.
In steps when you can explain.
Yeah. Okay. So the good quality, it's for me personally, when our customers are satisfied, if we're talking about the feeling. But also in quality assurance, we have several metrics which we could measure. For example, how many bugs we found in production, how many bugs we found before production. And we could measure at least this one to understand whether our software is good enough or not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one more question.
Hello.
Hello.
I would like to ask, I'm not sure if it's relevant to you, the question, but based from the previous speaker and now, and because of when I came here, I just read about the quantity, what it's doing, and actually, and now I just have a question about how do you do this kind of coding testing and this data information gathering, if it's relevant at all, during the DNA replication when it's happening the RNA transaction. I don't know it's from genetics, but if it's relevant to you, I just was curious about it. But if I don't know.
So understand it's connected to the chemist, right? So
It's connected
So
to chemist to the DNA.
yeah, as Tina mentioned, in Pantori we have two type of QAs which really deeply collaborate with our scientists, like Tina team, Davide, etc., squad team, and many more. And we computer science professionals. So actually I don't know much about chemists, so I probably can't answer these questions. But maybe if Davide could, or Tina team could help that.
We can talk on coffee break.
Yeah, it's a really complicated question. So let's talk on the coffee break. Thank you. Okay. One more question we have. Katie, could you please help?
You mentioned different parts of Agile process, like building blocks, let's say.
Could you please
And
speak up?
from your point of view, which one of these Agile blocks is most complicated to implement in your process? Like to have the ideal Agile process?
Sorry, which blocks?
Like you mentioned different blocks from Agile process, like testing phase, coding phase, requirements,
Okay.
communication, and so on. And which of these blocks is most complicated to implement?
For me, if we're talking about the Agile in general, we need to explain our team how it's an ideology, right? And I think the communication and how to tune and adjust communication between team members is the hardest part for me, because each of us are profi in business analysis, in testing, in development, but we should work together, and the teamwork is, I think, the hardest part to communicate, agreed on some patterns, agreed on the process, etc.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. So before we finish, Andrei, which was the best question?
I don't remember the first one. Who was the first one?
Who asked the first question?
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remembered, yeah. I'm going to deliver that, okay. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. This is finish of first half. We can go to the coffee break right now. There will be second half, of course, with 2 more presentations, so yeah, see you soon.
those two specialties, we need to understand the difference between those two specialties itself, like quality assurance and software testing. So let's just do that. Well, software testing is defined by the ISTQB. Glossary is the process consisting of all lifecycle activities, both static and dynamic, and all concerned with planning, preparation, and evaluation of a component or system and related work products to determine that they satisfy specified requirements and to demonstrate that they are fit for purpose and to detect any possible defects. Whereas quality assurance is defined as activities focused on providing confidence that quality requirements will be fulfilled. Quality assurance focuses on improving the software development process itself and making it efficient and effective per standards defined for the software products. And contrary to some developers' beliefs, both quality assurance and software testing are indispensable in providing a quality product with minimized number of bugs and issues. Let's discuss the differences between those more in depth. Software quality assurance is all about engineering process that ensures quality itself, and software testing is to test the products for any possible bugs or defects before it goes live. SQA involves activities that are related to the implementation of processes, procedures, and standards, which means that it is more of a process-oriented activity, whereas testing involves activities that are concerned with verification of the product itself, so it's a product-oriented set of activities. And SQA is a proactive measure and testing is a reactive measure. QA engineer, who is a QA engineer? A QA engineer focuses on improving software development processes and preventing defects in production. In other words, they make sure that the development team is doing all the right things in the right way at the right pace. The job scope embraces a number of duties such as reviewing quality specifications and providing timely and meaningful feedback, as well as planning and performing different stages of testing, such as creating detailed, comprehensive, and well-structured test plans, as well as test cases and estimating, prioritizing, and coordinating all the quality testing activities. They also document test progress and test results, like track quality metrics such as defect densities or open defect counts. We also develop new tools, technology, and testing strategies in order to meet the end user needs. Also, liaising with internal or external teams is an important part of the job. And most importantly, staying up to date with all the new tools, new testing strategies ensures the appropriate qualification of a QA engineer. The QA specialization comprises of many functions, so there are certainly different subspecialties such as quality control, software testing, and many others. QA specialists usually execute more than one role in a project, and the lines between those subspecialties are very much blurred, but we can still classify those into four main roles. The ISTQB organization has classified them as test analyst and test manager. Test analyst is engaged in static testing of requirements and making sure that the requirements are complete and they are consistent. And basically, test designer does something very similar to test analyst. They create a set of tests based on the requirements and plan configurations that are necessary for future testing. A test executor, a software tester, is a person that performs pre-planned tests that they describe and documents found errors and describe steps for producing or maybe even fixing them. However, a test manager is more of a QA lead who plans and monitors work related to software developments and testing, such as keeping to deadlines, following schedules, controlling requirements, assigning tasks to their team members, and so on, as well as communicating with stakeholders. So basically the job scope covers everything from how to design a test plan to building and managing their test team. It is crucial for a QA engineer to have impeccable analytical and communication skills in order to have a clear understanding of all the requirements and to have the ability to properly plan different testing activities. And here we have a great example of what happens when one possesses no such skills.
Good trick is to pump to the tune of Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. Do you know that song?
Yes, I do. I love that song. First I was afraid, I was petrified.
Well, the results could be devastating in real life. Thankfully, this is not real life. Sometimes just a simple misunderstanding causes a human life or have catastrophic consequences when the testing concerns healthcare, transportation, safety concerns software. Like if a defibrillator doesn't work when we need it, it could really easily cause a human life. So some of you may know this man as the quality assurance director of a successful paper company, but well, he did not really contribute much to that success. As you may have already deduced, role of a QA engineer is really important and immeasurable in the SDLC. The responsibilities of a tester and the QA engineer overlap to a certain degree. Both run manual and semi-automated tests in order to detect defects, but they work with the product at entirely different stages. The QA engineers know the product inside out. Maybe testers and testmen often don't. They are active during the planning phase, which means that they are more prepared for the testing phase itself. Moreover, cooperation with the product owner and the developers results in a much better quality and a reduced number of issues during implementation and going into production. Apart from all the non-technical skills that a key engineer should have, there are a lot of technical skills that one should possess. Different tools and software that we need for testing. In order to become a key engineer, one should really have at least basic knowledge of databases like SQL, or we need to be well versed in different testing tools such as SDLC monitoring tools like Jira, Azure DevOps, TestRail, and others. Sometimes we might need load testing tools like Apache Measure, as well as API testing tools like Postman, Swagger, and mobile testing tools, emulators like Android Studio, and knowledge of automation tools like Cypress or Puppeteer is not really compulsory, but it is very beneficial both for the project and for the QA engineer itself, even if there is a separate automation engineer in the projects. Well, as for software testers, the ISTQB glossary defines them as a person who performs testing. Well, to further elaborate, software testers analyze software and systems in order to avert risks and prevent issues. Like a software developer is an individual that tests software for bugs, errors, and defects, or any problem that can affect the performance of computer software or an application. A tester's role is really integral to software development lifecycle, and we need them to test every software that there is, like vehicles, electronic goods, defense, healthcare, everything that we use, like mobile phones, cars, all that. Having a tester on the team builds confidence for existent or future clients that can use the system under normal everyday conditions and in the operational environments to achieve their objectives with minimal cost, risk, and difficulty. Another objective of a tester is detection of defects related to conditions and environments in which the system will be used. especially when those conditions are hard to produce for to replicate for developers. Typically, testers install an application and they check if it works as it should. If they do this and nothing more, their understanding of the software they are testing will be always skin deep, and therefore a tester can only make sure that the application doesn't break, but they can't guarantee that it will serve its purpose. Typically, well, a tester is expected to have sound knowledge of the software that they are testing at the moment. So usually the best testers are the end users. This is exactly why we have alpha and beta testers. So who is qualified to be a tester? Well, basically everyone in the room, despite the fact if you are a QA engineer or not. You probably are even already a tester. You might have signed up for a beta testing of a certain game or any software. For example, well, I started my career in testing right at the old age of 15 or 16. At that point, I had absolutely no idea what quality assurance was or what role they played in creation of many amazing games or different software. Anyhow, I joined the public beta environment, and the game would first deploy in that environment, and only after beta testers would check it, only then would it go live to the production. And not everyone could be a beta tester here. You had to have good gaming ethics and so on. Well, I was kind of cool back in the day. Another example of testers is Ralph here. Although he doesn't really realize it, probably he's testing cosmetics for us before it gets to us. So as cruel as this is, he assures the products are safe for us humans, so we don't experience all the barbaric effects of them before him. And I hope someday we'll have better tools to do this, and maybe some software engineers and QA engineers could help in developing such tools. Here's another example of crowd testing. There are millions of people who are taking part in beta testing of different software, and their contribution to developing those softwares is enormous. Here are some examples like TestFairy, Beta Family User Testing. Those are all paid websites, so every party involved is satisfied, both the companies that hire them and the testers as well. Well, in many cases, the differences between QA engineers and tester positions are blurred. However, while a tester checks products for bugs, a QA engineer ensures that the quality of this software development process itself. Although both specialties are crucial to SDLC, it is important for a QA engineer to have the mindsets of the QA engineer, not the tester. If we were talking about medicine, QA would be engaged in prevention, and testers would be engaged in diagnosing, like a general practitioner and lab technician. A GP defines and drives all the processes of prevention, diagnosis, treatment, while a lab technician does the diagnosing part itself. And it is agreeably an important and irreplaceable part of the process. So to conclude, despite being quite different in many aspects and in many ways, both of those are unparalleled in the software development lifecycle. This is all I wanted to say today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you very much. So, any questions?
So I think it was quite conclusive.
Yeah, but we do have some presents, so you should ask questions.
Or I could just choose by looks or height, weight.
No?
Or I could take it home. Just an idea. Yeah, sure.
Oh.
You can just give me advice how can I become QA tester. It's not enough.
Hello everyone.
it was how can I start and become curator or engineer or no?
Well, to start with, I think taking an exam like IGSTQB foundation level is a really good start. It really concludes all the important details of being a QA engineer and all the tools we use, all the processes that we use, like Agile testing that Andre talked about, and all that is discussed there. You could start learning SQL maybe, and other tools that you mentioned here. And you could just take the leap, I guess. I hope I answered your question. And thank you. So I guess the Oscar goes to...
So, any other questions? No? Okay. So next our speaker. Yeah, thank you, Nami. Thank you. Next our speaker is going to be Anton Semenchenko. Anton. So let me set up real quick here.
Hello colleagues, nice to meet you. My name is Anton. This is my first time in Georgia. Really excited country. Really like it because I don't have personal experience. And this is really interesting. And today we are going to talk about automation. And I think the goal of our topic is to develop a checklist, of course, general purpose checklist, to verify either everything is okay from technical point of view in our automation project or not. This is not, of course, not a 100% truth. Some of these items from checklist we can skip. Some of the items we should add due to specific of your domain and your project. But anyway, this is a good start to use this checklist and thinking about your project. Either this is your new project or you just want to make a review. Make a review of your existing solution. I think this will be useful. And we are focusing on layers, on models, and on design patterns in this context. Several words about myself, just to know borders of my experience. I initially worked as a low-level developer, assembler, C++, then grew up to become a C++ architect, C++ senior architect, a low-level department manager, and then our customers decide that it will be really cool to develop automation department from scratch. And I started doing automation and make a smooth transition to make automation more and more. And now I almost only focusing on automation and C++. Sometimes I make architecture, and also I work as a university lecturer and also several subjects connected with C++, multi-threading in C++, and so on. And this is our checklist, and also this is our agenda. I think they are equal. Yeah, don't read carefully. You can use this presentation. Yeah, we have a long checklist. Don't worry. We finish till night. And problem statement. Yeah, why we need something like this checklist, and why we are talking about automation. I think most of you still faced challenges with automation solutions. Sometimes our decisions are too simple, and then we understand that it's hard to support when amount of tests growing up. Sometimes our initial decisions are too complicated, and we understand that it's hard to find specialists that can easily start working using our framework, using our tools and our environment. And we always should find balance, and balance, even if we find it, changes from time to time during evolution of our project. That's why I think it's actual, and that's why we are talking about this. And also, I think we should talk a little bit about terminology. Looks like a boring thing, but still, based on my experience during interviews of different specialists from different countries, even experienced specialists sometimes mixed these terms. For example, layers and models. And let's define what is a layer, what is a model, and what is a difference. Model is something that we not only can use inside of our automation solution, but we can easily move from one solution to another. For example, classical model is a library, is an assembly, is a jar file. We can use it independently. But layer is something that we can move. This is something like this stuff, like sweet. You can just give me a second layer. No, you can buy either at home, yeah, in general, or can buy it at all. You can't select, oh, please, in the middle. I like only in the middle. And that is the main difference. And sometimes guys talking, for example, we need a Selenium layer. No, Selenium is a model, because we can easily move Selenium, yeah, as an entity to another project, and so on. But when we are talking about page objects is a layer, because this we can just move page object from one project to another, yeah? And this is the most important thing. Framework and library. From my point of view, they look like equivalents. But if we are talking about library consists of different classes that we can use in any manner that we want. But if we are talking about framework, it also consists of different classes, objects, relationship between these classes and objects. But framework also consists of rules, and we should follow these rules to use these classes. That's why library, this is just entities that we can use or we don't want to use. But if we select a framework, we should follow these framework's rules. This is the main difference. Yeah, layers. And let's talk about main layers. And we are talking about general layers, layers related to UI mostly and related to backend mostly. The highest level is a test layer, and this layer should follow 3A rule principle. And 3A rule, this is just a 3-volt, arrange, act, and accept. Each test should be split into these 3 areas. First of all, we should setting up all necessary prior steps and preconditions. This is arrange. Then we should make act. Act can be combination of different steps, different actions, but from business logic of view, from the main point of view, it will be one business or one related to the main action, only one. And also we have accept. It always should be, sometimes we can find exception, but in most cases it should be direct. We should easily understand what is their assertion, and also it will be logical only one accept, yeah, hard accept. Physically, yeah, it will be a combination of assertions, but from business point of view, this is one and only one assert. This is the highest layer. If we are talking about UI, next, the most popular layers is business action layer, second layer, low-level actions, third layer, and page object layer, the lowest layer. It doesn't matter how we organize these layers. The simplest organization, when we have, for example, even static page object, in this static page object we have private methods as low-level actions and public methods is business action. Yes, this is the simplest solution, the simplest organization. In other cases, these layers can be split one from another, and sometimes this even can be services, like a business action service, low-level action service, and page object service. But conceptually, it doesn't matter. We have 3 different layers, and higher level can communicate only with lower layer and only one, and lower layer can communicate with higher level layer at all. And you see that, yes, we use page objects, we like page objects, but we do not say that page objects should be related one by one to business actions. Because, classical example, we have application, web-based application. Then we decided to move to mobile platform and initially use response design, also web-based application. Then, following usability, we organize native application for iOS, then for Android. All high-level layer, all tests should be the same because this is the same application and the same logic. But page objects will be absolutely different because in Android we have one way of organization UI, in iOS we have another standard way of UI organization, and for web the third one. That's why our page object level can be different, sometimes extremely different. Low-level actions also will be different, because again, sometimes we have something like simple action, but on the mobile we should something like and only then click. Yeah, this is complicated action. This is still low-level action to backend automation. But this looks weird even from definition, like page object and work page if we are talking about backend. Yes, we can and we should use possibly static classes or namespaces or some other way of grouping our both low-level actions and business level actions. We should have hierarchy of actions. But page objects, this is one of possible ways of organization, this hierarchy, and not ideal. But it depends. You should just think about this. It depends on your project. Models. Again, if we are talking about UI, we should have some UI engine. For example, Selenium or Apple. Most of the tools initially have too low-level interface. That's why our code will be backed with too low-level details, too many low-level details. That's why in most cases we should use some wrapper and some wrapper. And sometimes this is a classical mistake. We wanted to develop our own bicycle, our own wrapper. Yeah, it's interesting task, but we invest a lot of time and we get a result worse than one of the standards that we can just download and use some free open source. That's why, yeah, sometimes we should add something like UI engine helper, and we will talk a little bit about this stuff later. Just to make, I don't know, special pagination, special scrolling for our application, some specific action. But in most cases, this is several static classes, possibly in special namespace with just several methods. We don't need to develop our own wrapper. And also we have not specific for project domain UI helpers, because sometimes, for example, especially if we are talking about related to science domain, we should work with some graphs. We should work with different Canvas 5 based entities like dots, and analyzing and so on. And sometimes, yeah, ideally we don't need to automate this stuff. We should, because for visualization we need data calculated. That's why much easier automate data calculations, understand that everything is okay with the calculations. In this way, it should be okay with visualization if everything is calculated properly. But sometimes still we should work with this stuff. And for this thing, we need some specific for project or domain UI helpers. And what does it mean? Smart singleton. In most cases, these entities are orthogonal for all projects. For example, we need only one web driver in most cases, and we don't need to put them as a parameter to all calls and so on. If we need only one entity, we need a singleton. But why this is a smart singleton? For example, we decided to run tests in parallel and don't want to use parallelization on a high level like test runners or pipelines. We want to use multi-threading. In this case, our singleton should be transformed to be a thread safe. Okay, smart singleton, initially the simplest, then thread safe. Then we decided that we need not only one entity, but we need much more entities. For example, one entity per thread. Okay, we change our smart singleton to become a more complicated and add a pool of entities. And if we're talking about, for example, Java and Selenium, inside Selenium, we have smart singleton related to UI engine wrapper, and inside to Selenium. Backend, we need much more entities. We need HTTP engine. Sometimes we need HTTP engine wrapper, standard wrapper that provide us with some higher level functionality and syntax sugar. We need entity builder and parser because we have to work with the request, response, parameters, cookies, and others. We should work with the mock stuff, and this is, I think, the most complicated stuff in API, in backend automation. And also, we need only the lowest, the less priorities, specific for project or domain backend helpers. It should be either static, simple classes or smart singleton, in most cases, again. And general purpose helpers, also logger tracer, also test runner, also reporting agent, and customized integration model. What does it mean, customized integration model? Sometimes we wanna to update, automatically update, for example, our Confluence or another documentation, or we wanted to add some flags to our in our test management system, task management system, update Jira statuses. Sometimes you wanna update auto-update traceability matrix, for example. And to use this stuff, we should either find a standard solution or don't worry about a little customization, because most tools, all Atlassian tools, have simple API, and we can use this simple API, develop our little model, and use it for integration, both UI test and backend auto test. Design patterns specific for automation. In most of our project pattern, but still we have a standard classification. We should remember that we always have to use two types of actions: low-level actions and business-level actions. And business-level actions consist of one or more low-level actions. And also, we always should remember about the domain-specific languages. Sometimes it would be really helpful. If we are talking about internal DSL, there are two main types of DSL, internal and external. What is the external DSL? Great example is a BDD. When we have external files that follow Gherkin notation, this is external DSL because this is a language, because there is example. And it looks firstly weird, but you understand that this is easy to read, easy to understand. It's simplified to start working with this API. Or for example, if we are talking about backend testing, some builders, for example, we need to build cookies, and we build something, dot build another thing, dot build another thing, and also this is really easy to read, easy to understand notation, but this notation implements using fluent interface of low design pattern. I think the best description was done by Martin Fowler. You can easily find articles and read them. But if you should invest much more additional time to transform standard API to API based on fluent interface. And if this is not a really simple stuff like build something, or like a given when-then notation, it's really hard to implement it in a correct way. And also, when we have different dots, it's really hard to debug this stuff, to understand what is going wrong with this stuff. That's why only if you understand that domain is completely difficult and you can't use external DSL, you should try to use internal DSL. And general purpose design patterns. Really frequently we use singleton in automation. In classical development, singleton is something like anti-pattern, because singleton is OOP-based global variable, if we simplify extremely. And global variables are really bad approach from 50s. That's why this is a 70 years anti-pattern. But in automation, we have a lot of entities that are orthogonal to all other stuff in a project. Like, for example, loader. This is not a part of our project. It should be either thread safe or not thread safe, either one per project, one per process, or one per thread, but it's orthogonal, okay, it should be singleton. Tracer should be singleton. Database connection should be singleton, or pool of singletons, some thread safe pool of singletons, and so on. Factory method and abstract factory. I think this is in general the most popular factories today. Because if we wanna develop independent models, we should frequently use as much as possible interfaces and factories to simplify changing these models independently. And also builder. For example, to build either complicated pages or cookies, requests, response, and others. And sometimes, less frequently, we use composite. Composite, based on a naming, is a pattern that compose some complicated entity. When we have hierarchy of entities, we should use composite. But only if we not only have this hierarchy of entities, but want to make something difficult, something complicated with this hierarchy. And as soon as we have hierarchy, we should move from top to bottom or from bottom to top. If we are moving through hierarchy, we need iterator. If we wanna to add there some additional behavior to some nodes of this hierarchy, we need visitor. And sometimes we want to decorate visitors by, or some other stuff, by additional functionality. We need decorators. But these entities less popular. All other design patterns are frequent, really rare use, and in most cases you don't need to use them, in most cases. And additional questions. You always should ask yourself and discuss with the team questions regarding decomposition and encapsulation. We should split our questions to as small pieces as possible and encapsulate as much complexity and as much things that could be changed during project evolution as possible. Also, there is a principle: try, don't repeat yourself. As soon as you see that you repeat yourself, it doesn't matter where. Test case definition, and I don't know, acceptance test. This is not just a link, but two really close to each other. Or you have some documentation repetition, or you have code repetition. You should always think about how to move, how to delete this repetition. In some cases, the repetition is necessary. In some cases, this is right behavior, but we should always think. You see repetition, start thinking. Single source of truth, the same. We should understand where our source of truth. This is, for example, hurricane scenario, or some additional information linked to our backlog item, or our technical definition of our test case of what is the truth, because sometimes they have a contradictory information. And also, we should remember about two refactorings, from conditional to polymorphism and from polymorphism to conditional. What does it mean? Sometimes conditional solution based on if, then, else, do, while, and so on, much easier than OOP based. And we should ask yourself, either we need a polymorphic behavior, because to implement polymorphic behavior, we need one interface, two classes, ideally one interface for factory, one implementation of these factories that return one or another implementation of initial interface. And we can do the same stuff with only one if, for example, or several ifs. And we should think, do we need so complicated solution? Our application should be work on different requirements. And in this case, we don't want to move from if to switch, and this switch will be everywhere in the code. Yeah, in this case, we move from conditional to polymorphism and use interfaces, abstract factory, and polymorphic behavior. And then our customers understand that our market don't need so many solutions to support. Main percent of our end users uses just 2 or 3 environments. And in this case, we understand again that for crack book about design patterns, I should apply all of them. Let's use abstract factory, builder, and something else. No, we should make a conscious decision, try to make our solution as simple as possible and match our current needs. And also, there is such a thing as MVP, minimum valuable product, and MVP also exists for automation and for quality assurance. And MVP is out of scope of our today's discussion, because MVP, this is a pre-technical stuff like a pipeline, and a post-technical stuff like metrics, analyzing of our reports of auto tests. That's why our checklist focusing only on technical stuff, focusing only on code. But each team member should be focusing on minimum valuable product. We should get automation value, automation should bring value as soon as possible. And you see that our initial agenda is a checklist that you can use. And what's next? I think all of you can read more carefully all these items from this checklist, possibly Google some additional information regarding some of these items, and then try to discuss or try to analyze by yourself your current solution, your current project, and understand either you forget something or not, either changes situation or not. And ideally, you not only decide with the team that we should, for example, use, in this case, polymorphism, in this case, conditional, we should use static page object, or we should use some dynamic page objects, but you also should add argumentation, because as soon as your project changes, you can see that these arguments are not valid now. And in this case, you should start rethinking about some of these sub-items. That's all for today. And feel free to ask any questions. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anton. So, yeah, any questions?
So, firstly, thank you for the very interesting presentation. And my question was, in terms of QA automation, you mentioned checklists, right? And so in those checklists, are there any subjects that are more important than others, or are they on the same level where you're either checklisting all of them or none of them? So like, could one override the other?
Yes, great question. I think this checklist looks big and weird from first time, but it's not a big deal to apply it to your project when you have some experience of applying this checklist. That's why you just should try, and you see that this is not so hard. Yes, some of these items are much more important than others, but it depends on context and it depends on projects. That's why I don't add something like a priority to this checklist, and I try to build it logically from the highest level details to the low level details from different perspectives, because this is a multi-dimensional thing. I hope I answered the question.
Definitely did. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It was really interesting. I was wondering how much convenience does automation provide when there are big system-wide or maybe even project-wide changes. For example, migrating the whole project from JavaScript to TypeScript, or like Node.js to Dino maybe even. So like, do you have to adjust all of the tests that you've done previously, or maybe you can just hit the button and just rerun all the tests?
I try to rephrase the question. What should we do with existing auto test if we move from one language to another, from one platform to another? Yeah. I think this is a really bad and rare situation in most cases, because we should understand why do we need this migration, what challenges we faced, and why we can solve these challenges using our initial solution. Yeah, sometimes it's okay, but we should rethink 7 times before start doing such big transition. And then it depends on a reason why we make this transition. Sometimes the reason also including our really bad test cases for automation. Yeah, because this is possibly one of the reasons. And in this case, we should start from requirements, yeah, verify manual test cases, then split manual test cases into one or too many automated test cases, and develop something like a traceability matrix, make a priorities, and so on and so on and so on, and then start a transition. And sometimes it will cost much cheaper, than sometimes it's easier build something from scratch than to fix something. But we always should calculate. I really like return on investment calculation. Yeah, it's from one side it's looking like a boring, but this is the only way to find an answer. Either we are doing right or wrong, because each our steps should save money either right now or later, and only our customers can decide either we should start saving money now but possibly save less later, or we can invest a lot of time, money right now, but then it will be really inexpensive to update, to support, and so on. But first of all, we should start from problems, from needs and problems, and only then make transformation based on problems and needs. I hope I answered.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Would you say that this checklist is applicable for the project where automation engineer works in pair with manual engineer, and manual tests are being automated like one by one?
Yeah, sure. Again, it really depends on a project context. Yeah, for example, questions regarding DSL, PDD, or internal DSL. If your project not really big or your domain is easy to understand, even if your project are huge, you can easily skip these items. The same if you are mostly manual QA, you are not experienced in programming, and you're trying to make as simple as possible solution to start automation, to show this for customers, and then possibly to make this automation more sophisticated with some consultations, with some help. In this case, again, everything regarding design patterns, you can either skip or simplify it. But still, you should verify. We are thinking about layers. We always should have these layers. We are thinking about implementation of each of these layers, even the simplest implementation, but still. We have all necessary models, possibly the simplest models, but still, and so on. That's why I think this checklist is applicable for any project, but it should be adapted to a project context, to a team, to a situation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
My question might relate to the very first one. If you just start on the automation like POC, is it possible to violate any of these principles, or you just need to think about all of them just from the beginning?
Yes, if we are talking about POC, we can violate most of them, because MVP is out of scope, but for POC, we need just, I don't know, some smoke tests, some several UI tests, several backend tests, but still we need pipeline, we need good reporting, we need reporting both focusing on a low level for developers and on a high level with some simple diagram for business, just to show a real demo, just to demonstrate a real POC. Then, as soon as management says that we are really interested in this stuff, we should make a ROI calculation just to show when automation brings value, if any value. Sometimes automation can bring value. For example, if we're talking about mobile development and not a big applications, development cycle from 3 months to 1 year. In most cases, automation can bring, UI and even sometimes backend automation physically can start bringing value when we are talking about so short period of time. And for ROI calculation, sometimes we need to make another proof of concept. And this proof of concept should follow these best practices to show how difficult to develop one real test case, not a simplest one without infrastructure, but a real one. How easily or hard it will be support this test case, because we need some data for our calculation. Yeah, we can use some some standard data. For example, let's say 4 hours for one test and half hour for test updating. But in this case, we can make a mistake. That's why it's two different stages.
Thank you. Maybe you could add a list of literature to your presentation.
Yes, okay, sure. I added an update presentation, and on Monday, I think we will add all the information to YouTube, all presentations and so on, and you will find additional information, literature, and possibly useful links.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think it's quite enough questions. So what do you think, Anton, was the best question?
I think the question number 3 that was the most actual. I think this is girl. So you are. Sorry, I don't remember your name.
Congratulations. Thank you so much, Anton. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you all the speakers for the presentations. And right now we're having also second part of eating, so you can go and
and feel free to contact me. I think to contact all other speakers, and don't be shy. Always ask questions. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.